Annika, where are you now? Right now, I'm at my parents' house. Huh? Didn't I mention it before? Since Chris is on a business trip, my daughter and I have been staying at my parents' place. That makes sense. It must be tough, though, managing work and going back to your parents' house. Actually, it's not too bad. My workplace is close to their house, so it's more convenient this way. By the way, why do you ask? Oh, so you haven't heard anything yet? Heard about what? Well, you see, yesterday I dropped by your new house. Huh? My new house? That's right. And, well, we had a barbecue at your place, and, it ended up catching fire. The whole house burned down. What? What do you mean, barbecue? So, a few of us were chatting and someone said, wouldn't it be nice to have a barbecue? I remembered you mentioned building a new house, so I thought it'd be a perfect spot. Wait, are you saying... Well, we did the barbecue indoors, and, there was a bit of a mishap with the fire. Before we knew it, the house went up in flames. It looked like a giant campfire. Stop joking around! Are you saying you entered my house without permission? Of course. I mean, we're family. Isn't that natural? Natural? Don't you have any sense? Who in their right mind would think it's okay to have a barbecue indoors? Anyway, I figured the news might reach you soon, so I thought I'd let you know. Sorry about ruining your celebration over the new house, but hey, we're family, so forgive me, okay? There's no way I can forgive you. Do you have any idea how hard Chris and I worked to save up and build that house? Oh, come on. People can always start over. You can just build another one. It's not that simple. Do you know how much planning went into that house? We worked with architects from scratch. Well, I wouldn't know about that, but the house is gone now, so there's no point whining about it. What you've done is a crime. Do you realize that? A crime? Are you calling a family member a criminal? Need I remind you that I supported your marriage to Chris? A little gratitude would be nice. I never asked for your permission. Chris and I got married because we love each other. Stop acting like you're owed something. Oh, whatever. I'm tired of your lectures. Anyway, that's all I needed to tell you. Wait a second. Shouldn't you at least apologize? Why would I apologize? That house was technically Chris's, right? As his sister, I had every right to use it however I wanted. It's just bad luck that it burned down. Accept it and move on. You've got to be kidding me! Well, good luck building a new house. When it's done, let me know, okay? Hey, wait! Chris, are you free to talk right now?
Huh? What's going on?
You're coming back from your trip the day after tomorrow, right?
Yeah, around then. What's up?
Well, our new house. It's gone. It burned down.
What? What are you talking about?
Maggie just texted and told me.
Wait, are you okay? Is our daughter okay?
Yeah, we're fine. We've been staying at my parents' house, so we weren't near the house at all.
Then how on earth did it catch fire?
Apparently, it was your sister's fault.
What? What do you mean?
She said she went to our house with her friends to have a barbecue. While they were there, the fire got out of control, and the house burned down.
You've gotta be kidding me! What was she thinking? Does she not realize what kind of trouble she's brought on herself?
I doubt she realizes it. She was laughing when she told me.
Unbelievable! I don't even know what to say! I wanted to think Maggie had a good heart, but...
I know. I felt the same way.
But why would she do something like this?
It might have something to do with how things went when we got married. Remember how your dad wasn't too thrilled about me?
Yeah, I remember that.
Back then, Maggie was the one who helped smooth things over. She convinced your dad to give me a chance, and thanks to her, I was able to build a good relationship with your family. I've always been so grateful to her, almost like she's my real sister.
Yeah, Maggie used to seem so kind and dependable, but after her divorce, it's like she's become a completely different person.
I know. I can't imagine how hard it's been for her, but this is just too much.
Do you think the police have been notified yet?
Probably. I haven't gotten any calls about it, but someone must have reported it by now.
No calls yet?
Yeah, nothing so far.
So what are we gonna do?
I've got a plan in mind. Can I run it by you?
Of course, I'm listening.
Maggie, can I ask you something to clarify? Oh, what is it? You're saying you started a fire while barbecuing, right? Yes, that's right. Doesn't that mean you deliberately set fire to our house? Excuse me? Are you accusing me of arson? I can't believe this. Are you some kind of psychopath? You're one to talk after hosting a barbecue at someone else's house without permission. Please, I'm asking you to answer honestly. Of course I didn't do it on purpose. Nobody deliberately starts a fire because of careless handling. Though, I'll admit, I did think it might be fun to leave your house filled with trash and ashes. So it really was intentional. You decided to hold a barbecue at our place just to harass us, didn't you? Us? No, just you. Why? Did I do something to upset you? Of course you did. You had the nerve to brag about building a new house to me. Brag? That was never my intention. I was just sharing an update. Don't lie to me. It was obvious you were mocking me for being divorced. I would never do that. I still consider you family. No matter what happens, I would never look down on you. Huh. Well, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me anymore. Are you satisfied now, after burning down the home Chris and I built? That wasn't really the plan, but, well, I suppose it worked out nicely in the end. I see. I understand your feelings now. Good. Then that's the end of it. Yes, I've made up my mind now. So, what's going to happen to that house? Will the insurance pay out? Are you planning to buy a new one? That depends on how things unfold. I can't say for sure right now. But you're planning to move out of your apartment soon, right? Yes, the landlord and I have discussed it. Then you'd better hurry up and build a new house. Please don't make it sound so simple. By the way, when your new house is finished, let me know. I'll bring some friends over for another barbecue. Why would I ever tell you after what happened? Oh, don't be so cold. Are you serious? Coming from the person who started the fire? Even if we build a new house, I'm never telling you where it is. Well, that's fine by me. Seeing a house burn up close was more unpleasant than I expected. The smell is awful. I wouldn't want to experience that again. That makes two of us. Maggie, I've just arrived at the new house. Oh, and? What do you think of your charred, blackened home? Actually, nothing seems wrong with it. What? What are you talking about? Oh, I see. You're in denial. I got it. It must be hard to accept, having a brand new home burned down right after it was finished. It's not easy to come to terms with. But there's no point in escaping reality. You need to face it sooner rather than later. That's exactly why I've been feeling like this conversation wasn't adding up. What do you mean? The new house isn't scheduled to be completed for another 3 months. What? No, it's already done. It should be finished by now. No, it's 3 months away. Right now, it's still just the framework. I thought maybe that's what burned down. Wait, then that house? The house that caught fire belongs to someone else. I checked immediately, and it turns out there was a fire nearby. The police are currently investigating. Thankfully, the residents weren't home, so no one was hurt, but it caused quite a commotion. No, that can't be true. It's impossible. Think about it. If our house had burned down, the first people to be contacted would have been me or Chris, the owners. But instead, we found out from you. That's when I started to suspect something was off. That's true. Maggie, you need to come here immediately. We should go to the police. The police? Are you trying to turn me in? When someone does something wrong, it's only natural to report it to the authorities. This is ridiculous. Everything about this is too convenient. Are you telling me I burned down someone else's house? This is all a setup, isn't it? You're framing me. What are you talking about? You're the one who decided to have a barbecue. You're the one who used someone else's house. Shut up! This is a trap! I'll tell Chris everything! You've always been so paranoid. No, it's all your fault. Everything that's happening to me is because of you. Please stop throwing a tantrum like a child. If you had told me when the house would actually be finished, this never would have happened. You're responsible, so you'd better take care of me now. Absolutely not. Huh, fine. Chris will understand me. He'll protect me. And if Chris says he'll protect me, you'll have to follow his orders. Well, if Chris says so, then I'll follow along. Though I doubt that will ever happen. Ha! You'll see. If I tell Chris that this is partially your fault, he'll have no choice but to support me. Please don't drag me into your mess. Quiet! I'm calling Chris right now. Chris, listen to me. This is serious. I think I accidentally burned down someone else's house because of the barbecue I held.
What? Are you joking right now? What in the world were you thinking? And wait a minute, didn't you break into our property to even set up that barbecue in the first place? Explain yourself. What's going on here? What exactly did you do this time? No. It's not what it sounds like. I didn't do anything wrong, I swear. This whole situation, it's a setup. Someone's framing me for this mess. A setup? Really? That's your excuse? Do you even hear yourself right now? You're telling me you somehow accidentally burned someone's house down, but it's not your fault? This better be good. Go ahead, explain how this so-called setup happened. Okay, listen to me carefully. It's all Annika's fault. She's the one who orchestrated everything. Annika? What are you even talking about? You're blaming Annika now? Yes. You see, she's the one who invited me to this barbecue in the first place. She told me about this great spot to gather everyone and have a cookout. She said she'd provide everything. Location, food, you name it. All I had to do was show up. So you're telling me Annika planned a barbecue and you somehow ended up burning down a house? How does that even make sense? I'm not done explaining yet. So listen. On the day of the barbecue, Annika suddenly called me and said she couldn't come. She claimed she had an emergency or something. But she insisted that I go ahead with the plan without her, saying everything was already set up.
So we went to the spot she recommended, started grilling, and then the fire happened. It was all her idea. She's the one who tricked me into this mess.
So let me get this straight. You're claiming that Annika planned a barbecue, deliberately skipped it, and somehow expected you to accidentally set a house on fire? Do you even hear how ridiculous that sounds? You're grasping at straws here.
I'm not. You have to believe me. She's been out to get me for ages. She's always been jealous of me, always treating me like I'm beneath her. She probably thought this was the perfect opportunity to ruin me. If I end up getting arrested because of this, I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about her. That's why I'm begging you. Please, Chris, don't say anything about what happened. Just keep quiet about all of this.
Unbelievable. You're seriously asking me to cover for you after everything you've done?
Yes, I'm begging you. If this gets out, my life is over. I'll be humiliated.
Your life is over? Maggie, you brought this on yourself. You can't just waltz in here, claim you've been framed, and expect me to clean up your mess. I'm done with you. I've had enough of your nonsense.
Wait, Chris, don't say that. You're my brother. We're family.
Family? Don't make me laugh. You've done nothing but cause problems for me and everyone else around you. We're not family anymore, Maggie. Consider this the end of the line.
You don't mean that, do you?
I mean every word. I'm cutting ties with you. Don't ever contact me again.
Chris says he's done with me. He's cutting me off completely. Oh, is that so? What on earth did you say to him this time? For Chris to be that angry, you must have really outdone yourself. Why does it even matter anymore? If Chris is cutting ties with me, that means you and I are done too, right? That's correct. If Chris doesn't want anything to do with you, then I won't either. Don't act so innocent. You're just as much to blame for this. You've been working behind the scenes to turn him against me. I haven't done anything. You've managed to dig your own grave just fine without my help. You've only got yourself to blame for the position you're in now. Whatever. There's no point in trying to reason with you. If that's how you feel, then so be it. But let me give you one last piece of advice. Turn yourself in, Maggie. It's the only way to salvage what little dignity you have left. Turn myself in? Are you out of your mind? Why would I do that? This whole thing was an accident. I didn't intentionally start the fire. Why should I have to turn myself in for something that wasn't even my fault? Maggie, you set someone's house on fire. Whether it was intentional or not, it's still a serious crime. You can't just sweep this under the rug and hope it goes away. If you don't take responsibility for your actions, the consequences will only get worse. No, you're wrong. I've heard about cases like this before. If it's an accidental fire, you're not legally required to compensate the victims. A friend of mine had a small fire in their apartment once, and they didn't have to pay anything. That might be true for minor accidents, but this situation is entirely different. This wasn't just a small fire. It was gross negligence on your part. That changes everything. Gross negligence? What does that even mean? It means you were so careless that the fire was practically inevitable. The law doesn't let people off the hook for something like that. You're going to be held accountable, whether you like it or not. But I've never worked a day in my life. How am I supposed to pay for something like this? That's not anyone else's problem. You're an adult, Maggie. It's time to face the consequences of your actions. But what if no one finds out it was me? If I can keep this a secret, I won't have to deal with any of this, right? A secret? Maggie, the truth is already out. Chris knows. I know. The victims will find out sooner or later. There's no escaping this. But if I'm careful, I can avoid getting caught, can't I? As long as no one can prove it was me, I'll be fine. That's a terrible plan. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when the truth will catch up to you? Just do the right thing and turn yourself in. It's the only way to put this behind you. No way! I'm not going to the police. If I get arrested, my life will be ruined. Please, you have to help me. We're family, aren't we? Families are supposed to stick together. We've already established that we're not family anymore. Please, don't be like this. I'm begging you. Maggie, I've already made my decision. I'm not getting involved in this mess. If you refuse to take responsibility, then you're on your own. But let me warn you, there are other people who might not be as forgiving as I am. What do you mean by that? I mean the people whose house you burned down. They're not the type to just sit back and let this slide. From what I've heard, they're actively looking for whoever caused the fire, and they're not planning to go through the police. What? Why not? Because they want revenge. Revenge? Are you serious? Dead serious. So, if I were you, I'd think very carefully about my next move. Turning yourself in to the police might be the only way to avoid something much worse. So please, I'm begging you, turn yourself in to the police. No, I can't go to the police. If I get arrested, my life will be over. Please, help me. We're family, right? Isn't it normal to help each other? Like I said, we're not family anymore. Please don't be so cold. Maggie, go to the police. Don't tell me you'd rather face someone else's revenge than deal with an arrest. Of course not. But still, I can't go to the police. Even if you get arrested, you'll be fine. What? How can you say that? You're the one who always said life is full of second chances. So, take responsibility for what you've done and start over from scratch. Oh, wait, I misspoke. You've already been disowned by me, Chris, and even your own parents. So really, it's a fresh start from zero. I don't care what happens to you, but make your decision quickly, before you regret it.
What happened with Maggie?
Looks like she turned herself in. I guess the threat worked.
I see. Still, it's unsettling to know there are dangerous people living near the house we're building.
Actually, the police looked into that house because of the fire. Turns out, the owner and their associates are being arrested too. So, no need to worry.
What? Really?
Yep. Ironically, Maggie ended up doing something helpful after all.
I guess so, but I don't feel like thanking her at all.
Same here. Well, at least we don't have to worry about anything for our new life. Maggie's life had always been rooted in routine. Her days were filled with the quiet hum of domesticity, spent managing the home, raising her children, and supporting her husband, Robert, in his career. It was a simple life, one she had come to appreciate for its stability and predictability. But that stability was shattered one night, when a moment of frustration and anger led her to make a decision that would change the course of her life forever. In a fit of emotion, Maggie set fire to her own house. The fire destroyed not just the property, but also any sense of security and comfort she had known. The decision to set the fire was an impulsive one, fueled by a complex mix of personal frustrations, an inability to cope with her emotions, and a sense of hopelessness that had been building for years. Maggie had always been a quiet, reserved woman. And when the pressure of her responsibilities and her unmet desires finally boiled over, The fire seemed to offer a release, but it was a release with consequences that she could never have anticipated. The fire caused significant damage to the house and to the lives of those involved. When the authorities discovered that it had been set intentionally, Maggie's confession was swift. It was a moment of deep regret, but she knew that there was no way to undo what she had done. The weight of her actions began to sink in as she faced the legal system, knowing that the consequences would be severe. The court proceedings were a blur of legal terms and courtroom procedures, but the outcome was clear. Maggie had to pay for her actions. The court handed down a suspended sentence, sparing her from a prison sentence, but imposing heavy financial and emotional penalties that would shape the rest of her life. At first, Maggie allowed herself a small measure of relief when she learned that she wouldn't be going to jail. She could breathe again, though only for a moment. The suspended sentence, while sparing her the immediate physical punishment of incarceration, didn't spare her from the emotional and financial aftermath that would follow. In many ways, the real punishment was just beginning. As part of her sentence, the court ordered her to pay $500,000 in compensation for the damages caused by the fire. The figure was staggering. She had no savings, no assets, and no means by which to pay such an enormous amount. The order left her feeling hopeless, with no way to even begin to address the debt that now hung over her like a dark cloud. Maggie's life, once secure in its comfortable domesticity, had suddenly become a nightmare. She had always been a full-time housewife, responsible for managing the home and raising her children. She had never worked outside the house, and her husband, Robert, was the sole provider. Their lives were modest but secure, and Maggie had always trusted that they would be able to weather any storms together. However, in the wake of the fire, everything changed. The reality of the financial burden placed upon her by the court was overwhelming. She could not fathom how she would ever be able to repay the debt. It was simply too much. The shock of the compensation order was compounded by Maggie's lack of preparation for such an event. She had never worked a day in her life outside of the home, and now she was faced with the impossible task of figuring out how to survive in a world that had no place for someone like her. She had no formal education, no work experience, and no skills that would make her employable in a competitive job market. The prospect of paying off the debt seemed insurmountable, and Maggie found herself sinking deeper into despair with each passing day. In the weeks that followed the trial, Maggie's sense of hopelessness deepened. She knew that the only way forward was to find work, but that seemed like an insurmountable challenge. She began applying for jobs in every field she could think of, hoping for a break. But her lack of experience and skills made it difficult for her to even get an interview. She was rejected time and again, and each rejection only served to reinforce her feelings of worthlessness. It wasn't until a friend of hers mentioned a local retail store that she began to consider jobs in the service industry. It was the only option available to her, though it felt humiliating. She had never envisioned herself working in retail, let alone in a low-paying part-time job. But desperate times called for desperate measures, and Maggie had no choice but to take whatever she could get. She was hired as a cashier at a small local store. The work was physically demanding and emotionally draining. She had to stand for long hours, deal with difficult customers, and manage a multitude of tasks with little training or support. But the pay, though meager, was enough to help her keep up with the mounting bills and the ever-growing debt. Maggie soon realized that one part-time job wouldn't be enough to cover the cost of the $500,000 debt. She took on a second job, working nights at a local restaurant. The hours were long, the work grueling, and the pay insufficient. But still, she pressed on. she had no choice. Every day was a blur of exhaustion as she moved from one job to the next, each shift more draining than the last. Her body began to show the strain of the relentless schedule. She lost weight, became pale, and her once vibrant energy faded away. But still, she kept going, driven by the need to pay off the debt that had taken over her life. Despite her best efforts, the money she earned seemed to make little difference in her financial situation. The debt was so large, and the payments were so frequent that she felt as though she were treading water in a sea of bills and financial obligations. Her physical and emotional health began to deteriorate as well. She had never felt so tired in her life. The stress of managing her jobs, paying off the debt, and trying to hold her family together was taking its toll. Her marriage to Robert began to fray. He, too, was struggling with the aftermath of the fire and the impact it had on their family. The financial strain, combined with the emotional toll, led to an increasing distance between them. Maggie found herself alone, even though she was living with her husband. Their relationship had once been a source of comfort, but now it felt strained, distant, and cold. As the months wore on, Maggie's physical health continued to decline. She was exhausted all the time, and her body was showing the signs of years of overwork and neglect. She began to suffer from headaches, dizziness, and nausea, but she ignored the symptoms. She didn't have time to be sick. Her focus was entirely on the debt, and she continued to push herself harder, working more hours, taking on more responsibilities, and neglecting her own well-being. But the stress of her situation eventually became too much to bear. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at work, Maggie found herself reaching for a bottle of wine. It wasn't the first time. In fact, she had started drinking more regularly as a way to cope with the crushing weight of her circumstances. What started as a small glass to unwind at the end of the day soon escalated into a nightly routine. The alcohol provided a temporary escape from the pain of her reality, and Maggie clung to it, despite knowing that it wasn't a solution. Her drinking became more frequent, and soon she was unable to go a day without alcohol. She used it to numb the anxiety and the fear that gripped her every waking moment, but the consequences of her drinking were severe. Maggie began to lose control of her physical health, and the signs of liver damage became apparent. She felt fatigued all the time, her skin took on a yellowish hue, and her stomach was constantly upset. But despite the warnings her body was sending her, Maggie continued to drink. It was her only way of coping with the emotional and physical toll of her life. Maggie's condition worsened as her drinking continued. Her liver function deteriorated, and she began to experience more severe symptoms. She was hospitalized twice due to complications from her alcohol use. But even then, she didn't stop. She continued to drink, unable to break free from the cycle of despair that had enveloped her. And yet, through it all, she still held onto a sliver of hope that one day the debt would be paid off, that her health would improve, and that she might find a way to rebuild her life. Her relationship with her husband, once full of love and support, had withered away, leaving only a hollow shell of what it had once been. They barely spoke, and when they did, it was always about the debt, the house, or the fire. The emotional intimacy they had once shared seemed like a distant memory, a casualty of the financial and emotional fallout from the fire. Maggie's life had become a never-ending struggle. The consequences of her actions had shaped every aspect of her existence, leaving her feeling trapped in a world of debt, regret, and isolation. Despite the physical and emotional toll, she continued to press on, clinging to the faint hope that someday, somehow, things might get better. But for now, the fire that had once consumed her house had also consumed her life, leaving her to pick up the pieces of a future that seemed more and more impossible to rebuild. On the other hand, I have successfully moved into my new home, and my life with Chris and our daughter is now filled with a sense of peace and fulfillment. After months of planning, discussions, and hard work, we have finally settled into a place that truly feels like home. The journey to get here wasn't easy, but every obstacle we faced along the way has made this moment even more special and meaningful. It is hard to believe that we are now living in a space that we can call our own, a place where we can start fresh and build the life we've always dreamed of. The process of finding and purchasing the new house was not a simple one. It took time to search for the right location, to consider what would work best for our family, and to find a place that not only met our practical needs, but also felt like the perfect space to nurture our dreams and hopes for the future. There were many discussions between Chris and me, as we both had our own visions of what we wanted in a home. We considered everything from the number of rooms to the layout of the kitchen, and we debated over small details, like the type of flooring and the paint colors that would bring warmth and comfort to the space. The decision-making process wasn't always easy, but we worked through it together, always keeping in mind what would make us happiest in the long run. Once we found the house, the real work began. We had to go through all the paperwork, inspections, and logistics involved in closing the deal. There were moments when it felt like the process would never end, and we had to navigate all the unexpected hurdles that come with buying a home. But with each step, we got closer to our goal. And finally, after what seemed like an eternity, we were handed the keys to our new house. There was an overwhelming sense of relief and excitement as we stepped inside for the first time. It was a place that we could finally call our own, a space where we could create the kind of family life we had always dreamed about. Now that we are settled in, I can't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for everything that led us to this point. I am so thankful for the support of Chris, who has been my partner in every sense of the word. His dedication, patience, and hard work throughout this process have been nothing short of remarkable. I could never have imagined going through this experience without him by my side. He has been my rock, always there to offer encouragement, to solve problems, and to make sure that we stay focused on what truly matters. He shares my excitement about the new home and the possibilities that lie ahead, and I know that with him, anything is possible. Our daughter, too, has been an important part of this journey. As a family, we've gone through so much together, and I know that this new chapter in our lives will be one that she will remember fondly as she grows older. I see her eyes light up every time we talk about the house, and I know that she is just as excited as we are to begin this new chapter. For her, this home represents more than just a physical space. It's a place where she will continue to grow, learn, and experience life with the love and support of her family. Every day, she adds a new layer of joy to our home, whether it's through her laughter, her curiosity, or the little moments that make our family feel complete. She is truly the heart of this home, and I look forward to watching her flourish in this new environment. The house itself has become a symbol of our hopes for the future. It is a space where we can create lasting memories, where we can celebrate the milestones of our lives, and where we can find comfort and peace after a long day. I often think about all the special moments that will take place here. Family dinners, holiday celebrations, quiet afternoons spent in each other's company, and all the little rituals that make a family feel like a home. We've already begun filling the house with our unique traditions and routines, and I'm excited to see how these will evolve over time. Every room in the house holds promise and potential. The living room, with its large windows that let in the sunlight, has already become a place for us to relax together, to unwind after a busy day, and to share stories about our lives. The kitchen, with its spacious counters and modern appliances, has become a place of creativity and connection as we prepare meals together and bond over the shared experience of cooking. The bedrooms, each one cozy and inviting, are spaces where we rest, dream, and find solace. each room feels like a reflection of our personalities and the love we share as a family. It is amazing how quickly the house has transformed from a mere structure into a true home, filled with warmth, laughter, and the presence of the people who matter most to us. There are also certain moments that stand out to me, moments that I know will become cherished memories for years to come. The first time we all sat down together for a meal in the new dining room was one of those moments. The table was filled with food, and as we looked around at each other, there was a sense of contentment and gratitude in the air. It was a simple moment, but it felt like a milestone, a moment that marked the beginning of a new chapter in our family's story. There was something special about that dinner, a feeling of togetherness that made the house feel even more like a home. And then there's the garden outside, which we've already started working on. The backyard has so much potential, and we've been brainstorming ideas for how we want to make it a space that reflects our love for nature and spending time outdoors. We've planted a few flowers, and Chris has been working on setting up a small vegetable garden. I can already picture the future, with our daughter running around in the yard, playing with her friends, or just enjoying the sunshine. I imagine us having barbecues in the summer, sitting around a fire pit in the evenings, and simply enjoying the space we've created.